For 5 weeks, NASCAR stars from around the world are here to race. This is eNASCAR International.
I feel it inside. I'm reaching my stride. I'm standing my ground. I won't give in. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof.
Good afternoon, race fans, and welcome to iRacing's coverage of the fourth race of the 2022 D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series, presented by Digital Motorsports for the Logitech G30, live from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside the booth for today's action is Devin Henry with our producer, Zach Johnson, controlling the cameras for what's expected to be a pivotal race for this season's campaign. This is race 4 of 5 on the schedule, Devin, and the championship has got it interesting entering Daytona. And in turn, the implications for the drivers today could be huge if they want to make a run for the title by the end of the campaign.
Absolutely. This is the semifinal, Justin. When you have drivers from the NASCAR Euro Series, the Peak Mexico Series, the Pinty Series up in Canada, and then, of course, the Drive for Diversity Series here in America, for a lot of these guys, especially not in the U.S., this is a series where going to road courses, this is their bread and butter, right? So you now have a capstone season that starts with an oval and ends with an oval. This might be the last race for you to go out and get those guaranteed points at a course where you're going to be more accustomed to than, say, a 1 Mile Phoenix Oval next week. So for some of these Euro, Canadian, and Mexico guys, this is the race to really get yourself a good buffer going into what might be a wild card for a lot of these guys next week.
And it's going to be interesting how today fares out as we get ready to take a look at your track map and your Digital Motorsports track analysis for today as we visit Daytona International Speedway, a circuit that's been open since the 1950s and hosted stock car road course action since 2020 with its current configuration for the drivers. In turn, these competitors will have 11 turns to fare off around its 3.57 miles, 5.7 kilometers in terms of its distance. And in terms of this series, Devin, it's one of the returning tracks from the opening series campaign back in 2021.
Yeah, this was the finale 1 year ago in a 3-race stint, and now the semifinal in a 5-race stint in this season in 2022, at least ending in 2022. And when you come to this track, there's so many different methods to get around it because you have to be good not just at the inside of the track, the road course, the almost no banking, really low speeds, horseshoe type of track, and then you got to go to the NASCAR Oval, the high speeds. Being able to convert on speed, both on the inside of the track and the outside of the track, becomes so important if you want to find victory lane at the Daytona Road Course.
And in turn, let's take a look at the schedule to help set the table as well and how the momentum's been shifting because on the oval side, it was a wild start. Rajah Caruth picked up the victory there. But since then on the road courses, Devin, it's been the long day show. Back-to-back victories with dominating intervals. In fact, won by more than 20 seconds in Canada.
Oh yeah, Allende, the all-time winner in the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series, showing exactly what he's made of here on iRacing now and still has a little bit of a trek to climb if he wants to grab that points lead after a very shaky oval race at Homestead. But do not count out Allende to go out and make it 3 in a row. He is the only repeat winner in this entire series history, and he is in shape to make it 3 in a row here at Daytona.
With that, let's take a look at the D-Box race analysis for today. D-Box, feel it all. As the competitors today, once more, will be running 30 laps for this action, Devin. 55 miles per hour, the pit road speed limit. Keep that in mind as well. With the pit road window being about 15 to 17 laps, drivers can go about 20 laps or so in these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars for today. Weather conditions, 78 degrees Fahrenheit is the air temp. Winds at 2 miles per hour to the north. For today's action from Daytona International Speedway. Real quick, we would like to give a shout out to those folks at D-Box because they're having a giveaway. Yes, if you can predict who will win this series, you could win this rig, a digital motorsports simulator with D-Box haptic technology in it. Among some of the parts in it are the SimLabs E1X chassis, the racing seat and brackets, Fanatec racing equipment, including a direct drive base, a wheel, pedals, and shifter, the floor stand mount, as well as a monitor at 49 inches curved, as well as D-Box haptic system, the best motion system on the market you can get with its electronic motors. Sign up on www.d-box.com/eNASCAR/contacts. Contest should say. Be able to follow along with the D-Box newsletter, and you could win this prize pack for this NASCAR simulator from Digital Motorsports. With that, the drivers have finished up qualifying in the warm-ups for today's action. Let's take a look at how they'll start from the World Center of Racing. Drivers making their way to the track as Lon Day is on the pole once more. His second pole of the season was Simon Pilot, the winner for one of the races last season and one of the front runners for the championship in second in the 154 bracket. Paul Giuffreau has put in the most practice laps out of most drivers in preparation for this week, starting in third. And the Euro driver top four continues with Tobias Dallenhauer. Alex de Alba tries to keep up momentum from fifth, and Trayden Lapsevich. Keep an eye on him from sixth today, Devin.
Fedric Grabillon will start off in the 7th position from the NASCAR Euro Series. Coming out of the Peak Mexico Series, Victor Morales Jr. starts off on the outside of row number 4. Few Drive for Diversity drivers make up the next 3 spots. First of all, Rajah Caruth and Nicholas Sanchez, a pair of Rev Racing teammates. And then Justin Campbell, the 16-year-old out of Griffin, Georgia, starts in 11th. David Delara, will round out the first 12 spots.
Federico Gutierrez makes the start today from the 23 car in P13. He'll start alongside Vladimiros Zeltzis in 14th. Magian Barnes 15th and 16th for today. Jake Cozio amongst the last of the qualifiers in the 51. Jocelyn Fecteau will start alongside him in 18th position.
Alex Tagliani from the Pinty Series joining us tonight inside the 19th position. Ulysses Del Sol from the Wheel and Euro Series will be outside of row number 10. Miguel Gomez inside of row number 11 from the Euro Series, along with Yevgen Sokolovsky. Rounding out the field tonight, driving number 88, Massimiliano Lanza, your field tonight. 23 cars from Daytona International Speedway.
Of note, a few drivers did miss the starting grid. De Alba amongst them, as well as Tagliani, it appears once more, may have had that same situation. He had the same situation at Zolder. For our drivers today, they're just about all set to get racing for International Series competition. This is the Logitech G30. On Day in control of the field alongside Pilot. iRacing pace car making its way off. The green flag's all set. We're underway from Daytona. And a great start for Day, already picking up 3/10 in the opening corners into the horseshoes. First side-by-sides feature some drivers such as Nicholas Sanchez, Rajah Caruth, Justin Campbell and company battling into the kink. Campbell, though, a little bit squirrely, kicked up some grass into the kink this time, Devin.
Taking a look at the pair of Rev Racing drivers, Sanchez in that black 02, Caruth in the white number 13, and being picked outside. Delara kind of gets stuck going through all those turns in the infield, about to come back out into the NASCAR portion of this track. And this is where you get those high speeds, the drafting. Who can take advantage of when you're getting back up to speed? Oh, so important to get out of that in and out corner with a lot of speed and gain on momentum of the driver in front of you. Get that draft, make some passes.
Cozio, by the way, off-circuit technical issues. Lanza, after technical issues, back on track. Tagliani has not gotten rolling. De Alba is on circuit. Here's a look at the battle still going on. It's those battling. You see the side-by-side of the entry is Delara. Hold on for now. That is currently the battle for 10th position, up 2 spots as the 90s so far.
Gutierrez now having to sit back and watch. Can Gutierrez or Justin Campbell try to pick up a little bit of a draft here? And we'll head into this front straightaway chicane. You really got to jump on the brakes, especially when you're in the draft. it varies almost every time that you come into it. So you're going from very high speeds here, kick it on way down. Campbell almost into the back of the 23, and Gutierrez almost into Delara. That is just how tight it is trying to finish this lap.
As they end the first lap, Day leads lap 1. Keep in mind, this is not the easiest place to make a move, keep in mind, in a stock car. The best shots possibly today, Devin, have been thought to be the horseshoes, the newly renamed Le Mans chicane, but as well, if you're brave, that last chicane. If you're going to bump doors, it seems.
Pilot looking for P1 through the international horseshoe, but you see he loses that momentum coming out of the corner. Will give Allende a little bit more speed. Pilot definitely not giving it up, though. Will not get the spot, and now it looks like Joe Fro trying to get, into the grass.
Bit of a dicey moment there as Jafro tries to battle with the 50 still. Day misses the bottom, though. Make their way towards the in and out. For the out portion of that. Mind Day, lots of sim racing experience, one of the early members on the platform. Appeared on the sim and official racing for several years. As we take a look, this is Simon Pilot. You see on your viewpoint, left side of the screen, trying to stay dialed in the battle for the front spots, knowing how tight the points are. For reference, the leader coming in was Victor Morales by 5 points over Day. Pilot was 10 points back of Morales.
And Morales right now in the 9th position. And you have to remember, when it comes down to Pilot, go back to June 23rd of last year, took the first ever win in this international iRacing series at Grand Hatch Circuit.
Pilot just hit one of the turtles. Pilot loose. Pilot gets passed by the 64.
Dufro, not the hardest way to get around someone, is now Downhauser is also looking to get around this outside. This is going to set up Pilot in a really bad spot going into this chicane. Issues for the driver out of Belgium, and now locking it up before the chicane.
Keep in mind, when it comes to the NASCAR configuration on iRacing, the turtles are there based on what we've seen in stock car racing previous year. Pilot, in turn, learning that the hard way in the midst of that battle. And for those who raced platforms that did Daytona 24 on iRacing, that was a major challenge too back then. Pilot looking for a spot back. We go for the contact, a bit of contact, yes, with Delvin Halready gets turned for it. Pilot to the grass.
This is going to be monumental in that points battle that you were talking about. Pilot trying to get back on track, and boy, that was really tight with Nick Sanchez. I don't think they had any contact, but now Pilot all the way back outside the top 10.
Victor Morales has been turned in that. What in the world? The points leader has been wrecked in the horseshoes.
There's the 39 car, the 23-year-old out of Mexico in the Peak Series, now having to play some damage control here as he slides all the way back to that 16th position.
Nicholas Sanchez, I believe, was the driver he made contact with, but again, kind of a hard situation to avoid contact when a driver comes back on the track when they're 2-3 wide, entering a hard braking zone, it seemed there. Sanchez, in turn, 8th.
Absolutely, and that international horseshoe, that entry is just so tight because you have to make a full 180-degree turn there. So everyone's setting up for the corner a little bit differently as traffic is still very congested at the beginning of this race. And yeah, that's just a product of you don't want to lose spots though, right? What do? Hold back and wait for everyone to pass you. Pilot almost got on there clean, but unfortunately Sanchez was looking to pass, so he was a little bit lower on the track than maybe Pilot was expecting, and that creates a little stack up. And a few drivers in this points battle now sliding on back as Allende continues to cruise out front.
Lead right now is about 1 second. Jafro is still staying within range. Kevin Hours dropped back to about 3 seconds behind for the 3rd position as well. And again, we hit upon this a little bit, Devin. More than 120 laps entering the final practice sessions before qualifying for the 64. Throughout social media and even on some of the broadcast links has talked about how positive he was feeling about the Daytona Road course for today and wanting to perform well, wanting to have a chance to reel in championship points. 11th in the standings entering today. Needs a strong run to have a shot at the title for the finale.
Absolutely. The 18-year-old out of France who enters as a rookie in the Euro NASCAR Series in 2022 for Speedhouse, was able to race in the Club Challenge for that same team back 1 year ago, one of the support series in the Euro Series of NASCAR, and able to spend a little bit of time on this sim. You see, really trying to get as close as he can on those inside grip strips, and Allende missing the corner here as we get into the out part of this infield section. So Jufro really starting to gain in here and might have a chance to pass Allende.
Look from the roof cam on the right side. This is Dufro on the left side of your screen, and look at the wheel movements. This is not an easy track to grip up on with the tire. The longer you go on the run, the more slipperier it gets on exit.
He's got that laser focus, and you might see him try to really reel in Day as we get into this back straightaway chicane. Dufro has actually picked up about a second and a half on Dauenhauer behind him, so he has a little bit of extra room to work with. No fear of anyone behind him. You see him really dig in here, blitzing the chicane. Got to be careful with those turtles right there on the right there on the left, goes over the turtles. Still able to pick up some speed, almost gained a 10th there through that chicane.
Unfortunately, that is not a skateboard they're driving with today. That is a race car. By the way, track limit warning for Nicolas Sanchez in the other grouping has cost him some ground because he cut the entire bus stop. That is a time penalty if you do so. 07 is now lost grip to 4-on-4, was within range of Praja Karuk beforehand as he cuts more of the track limits and is looking like he's going to the pit lane. Speaking of some of the battles, best run of the season so far for the number 3. Some rough performances entering today for Gabriel, but today, top 4 on the track, started in 7th, already picking up a few spots. The Frenchman currently trying to battle for 3rd, in fact, would be his best finish of the season.
And the Iron Man of the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series, the most career starts all time in that Pro Series with 84. Hasn't quite won that championship, though. Total of 3 runner-up finishes in the Point Series, but total of 12 career Euro Series wins at the pro level. And how about this? A podium in more than half of his career starts. He has been absolutely a staple of the Euro Series up there.
And a very solid run so far for the 3 machine. Was in the midst of some of the battles last time out. Zolder amongst the top 10. Get very quick on the pace when it comes to Daytona. Keep in mind, when it comes to the virtual side of things, NASCAR holds a lot of events themselves virtually. They had their own personal in-sim league for a few seasons, and Daytona was a frequent stop on the schedule, Devin. And you see some of that experience crossing over for those from Europe.
Exactly, and you look at a guy like Victor Morales, even though that was a Mexico Series driver, he won the 2020 NASCAR Mexico iRacing Series Championship. And then you go and look at someone like Tobias Dauenhauer, who's in this race as well, trying to get on up in that podium, try to pick up a few more spots. He was the 2021 Euro NASCAR Esports Series champion, picked up 2 wins in that campaign. So there's a lot of drivers in this series who have success on the sim, not just sim racing, official races, leagues, but racing against some of these fellow competitors back when we had either that coronavirus pandemic shutdown or whether it be just the series that have evolved from there. So a lot of these drivers have experienced racing one another and racing on these tracks in the sim world.
Take a look at Dauenhauer, meanwhile, and it's been an intriguing run for the 50. A little bit of rubbing, yes, for that turnaround with Simon Pilot. Since then, has settled back on down. Remember, it was a strong run before Devin last time out at Zolder, and then he had to come down for an extra pit stop to serve a penalty. Dauenhauer learned the hard way. Make sure you don't get an unsafe pit exit.
And that plucked him back into the 7th position in points. Now finds himself a 20-point deficit to Victor Morales, who, fortunately for some of these guys behind him, are having some difficulties today. But Allende right now would have that points lead, and he's still 25 or 15 points rather coming into today above Tobias. So still a lot of room to make up, especially with that penalty from last week. And this is a track where you can really make it up. Now that we're beginning to spread out, don't expect a caution here today, but we do have those green flag pit stops that could mix everything up. If you just come down and just run really smooth right now, hit your points, unless you're in a pack like this, you're going to do really well. When you're driving like this, you got to find your way around, guys, if you're faster than them, and try to get that momentum flowing, especially here through the NASCAR corners.
Justin Campbell amongst those the most improved compared to 2021's campaign. Lara also very much improved for today, but the driver on behind, the 10 car, is looking to try and improve after not being able to put in a qualifying lap. No pass in towards the chicane this time but for Del So, the 3rd car in this train, he spun in qualifying, in turn was able to set a lap. He's the biggest mover, up 10 spots already.
The Frenchman in 2018 Euro NASCAR 2 Series champion. Also spent a little bit of time here in the States. He actually competed at New Smyrna in the ARCA E-Series back in 2016. So He's had some time in Florida, maybe not at this course in the real world, but yeah, having a great campaign early here as the 90 misses up. Dillard's going to lose a pair of positions and potentially have a time penalty there on that front straightaway chicane.
Lost time and then some for the number 90. And as we talked about in the past, Evan, for races James and Kenneth have hit upon in the previous rounds, it's not easy to slow the car down. With these types of cars, keep in mind, you have to be careful on the brakes. Otherwise, you have the chance of wheel hop or sending the car off the circuit.
These wheels and suspensions enjoy wheel hopping more than they do actually slowing down. So yeah, that's exactly a major point in these NASCAR stock cars where you have to find a way to woe this car down, and then as these brakes get hotter, as the tires get more worn down, we know that racing is all about adaptability, adapting to what the car gives you and how you need to change your braking points going into corners, sometimes how you turn in. And you see right now how Del Sol is really just blitzing some of these corners and closing in on Justin Campbell. You eventually have to begin to change how you approach these corners and make the moves. A little bit of a passing opportunity here on Campbell. Not going to gain enough speed, though. We'll try to pick him back up in the draft through NASCAR 1 and 2.
That's time by 1:58.6, by the way, for Del Sol. The fall-off rate, already about 1 second for the top drivers across the circuit. Here's a look into one of the air battles right on behind. Same section. This is for 11th. Gutierrez. Inside this time, taken away from Maggi. And Maggi having one of the best runs for him this season as well, after some struggles last time at Zolder with a few spins.
Yeah, when you get this Swiss driver coming out here out of the Euro Series, he's had himself a great season last year. The 24-year-old picked up a top 5, 7 top 10s in the Euro NASCAR Pro Series last year. So still trying to pick up some of that momentum, and the 24-year-old might be able to do it here in the sim world as well. Now stuck back in this 12th position, trying to close back in on Maggi as we continue to slide on over and complete lap number 8.
That's all while Victor Morales, you've seen a bit in the back grouping coming up to this pack as well, is still on his recovery drive for reference. The 39 has only gotten back to 14th after the incident of the horseshoes, after what happened with Simon Pilot and company. And for Morales, dealing with back end damage and now dealing with the car nearly spinning. That is the Otis, who is locking it up and getting a bump this time for the 39 machine.
Was not a lot of room there for Morales to make any sort of room, and now the driver out of Cyprus has himself a pair of cars right up on that rear bumper. Oh man, really trying to close in. Going to lose a little bit of time here, but as we go to the next horseshoe, watch out for Morales potentially to make a little bit of move here on exit, trying to get a good position into the next out segment of this track.
Mind Morales last time by picked up 2/10. Another lockup, another punt. Will this make the move? Yes, indeed, opens up the door. Bit of a bobble for the one, nearly loops it off the exit. Morales is back up to 13.
And now Alex de Alba is going to follow suit. Unable to get to the inside of him here, trying to find that left rear quarter panel. Ends up having to squeeze it back off. The driver out of Mexico with the NASCAR Peak Series now trying to hound down here on the number 1 machine, right up on that rear bumper here through NASCAR 1 and 2.
But with a 14-2, we've seen already the bumper used twice on the one already this past lap. Instead, he goes to the outside, to Alba, trying to make the move the long way. Looks like the space is given this time by the one machine. De Alba up to 14th. And it's a good recovery for De Alba because he started from the pit lane, remember, in this one.
The young 24-year-old out of San Luis Potosí, Mexico, had himself an opportunity during the shutdown to go and compete more on iRacing. Not one of those iRacing champions, but it's one of the drivers who really spent a lot of time in sim, not just building the sim racing community, but also the Mexican sim racing community and other drivers in the Peak Mexico Series. And someone who really loves the sim racing, iRacing, and has had the ability to really grow some of that community down in Mexico.
Battling meanwhile, Del Sol and Campbell starting to trade bumper to bumper once more. They have swapped positions this time through the in and out. Del Sol looking to run away up 12 spots and making it your plus 11 instead with that slip and slide. And when you cook your rear tires like a marshmallow to a fire, it doesn't work well.
And the worst part about overheating your tires at a track like this, where you're using both the right rear and the left rear when you're turning and kind of leaning on these tires, once you have a really big slide and those tires heat up, they're not coming back down. You're going to have to deal with that really high tire temperature for the remainder of your stint. So once you get that car a little bit too sideways, you have to become very adaptable and figure out what that car is no longer going to do. And of course, going up through the gearbox. When you're shifting in these cars, they do not love to shift outside of a certain RPM. So if you are downshifting or upshifting somewhere where the car doesn't like it, a lot of wheel hop and a lot of tire spin too on already hot tires.
So on board, this is Justin Campbell.
16-year-old out of Georgia, started Bandolero Racing back in 2016. Closes in a little bit. Now having to watch out for those turtles. Does a really good job through the exit there, hugging onto those turtles without hitting them, but loses a little bit of time here.
I was about to say that's the perfect example, too, of what you talked about with the revs we heard there, too.
Exactly, and that's just something that comes with practice here. And like you said, Justin, these guys have been practicing all week at this track. It becomes a little bit different once you get into that pack and open up the race. But now this feels a little bit more like those practice sessions where it's just you and one guy in front of you, maybe a guy behind you, and you're able to really focus down and hit on those marks.
Some exciting action for those tuning in. Day leads now by 3 seconds. One of the battles to keep an eye on, Day pulls off and away from Drew Furl and Dallenhauer, is the 4-on back grouping, because at the other end of the horseshoes, that's where Traden Lapsevich leads a train with Raja Karuf, Simon Pilot, who have both passed the 3 this time around. Give credit to Karuf. Last time out was not a fun one. Traden Lapsevich, he's mentioned in the past he picks up better and better with more laps turned in the race. Didn't have much preparation with special event action on double duty, in fact, at this track, which may help today. Those two are having solid runs, and Pilot's also recovering. Here's the look from Karuf.
And of course, a lot of guys know Raja Karuth from the sim. Really started and got the racing bug from iRacing, and then started to go race in the real world, now part of the Rev Racing team. And for Karuth, the first ever Caribbean American to compete in a NASCAR National Series event, able to pick up a third-place position in the ARCA East standings last year, and now the 19-year-old on iRacing, typically an oval racer, but in the past, I'd say about 8 months, really dipping his toes more into this road racing, also some dirt oval racing, and really diversifying himself as a sim racer. As he shoots here for the 20. Lapsevich bangs doors with Karuth, and that's going to lose Karuth a pair of positions here.
I was going to ask how it is racing against Raja, since you do have that experience with him in the past. Raja's definitely going to be happy about that one. Significant damage to both sides of the car after the bump.
Hey, Karuth will take every inch that you give him, and Lapsevich was just trying to get back on the track. There was not a lot of room on the exit of that chicane. Now Lapsevich under pressure. Here comes the 8, Simon Pilot, now trying to attack as well. Lapsevich in a world of hurt right now as the Belgium driver, the 19-year-old, and that number 8 machine starts to apply more pressure. And this is where for Lapsevich you have to really recalculate. Going to give the spot here up to Pilot. Now move that number 8 machine up inside the top 5. And now Karuth also working on the number 3 of Gabillon.
Big picture racing there from Traden Lapsevich. Still a top 5 run so far. And as we pass a third of the way through, I'd like to remind you that this series is presented by D-Box. Paralleled realism, durability, and customizability. Their long-standing relationships with studios and producers allow them to process telemetry data from the game's engine and provide specifically designed haptic feedback, resulting in an extremely realistic, immersive experience. Plus, thanks to more than 20 years of experience in multiple industries, actuators are proven to be robust and reliable plug-and-play options on the market. You can even customize your feedback settings to exact liking thanks to D-Box's exclusive Game Center. Once again, thanks to D-Box for their support of this series. You can find out more at website seen at www.d-box.com. Looking on screen, meanwhile, Raja Karuf also getting led on by for position. That is for 6th now on the racetrack. Karuth up 3 positions, and give Karuth credit. He's not normally a road course racer, Devin. Usually, he's quick on the ovals, races a lot of ovals on iRacing. And on top of things is preparing to race in this type of car. The NASCAR Xfinity Series. It's been a busy offseason, let's put it that way, for Raja, and a big uprising for Karuth in general.
Absolutely, going full-time next year in the ARCA Menard Series with Red Racing, part-time with Alpha Prime Motorsports in the Xfinity Series. Right now, driving like a man on a mission. Maybe not necessarily upset at Lapsevich for that incident, but some of these racers, when you just make a mistake, no matter whose mistake it is, no matter what happens, okay, maybe he's a little bit upset, kind of pinching Lapsevich there down the front straightaway. You just become a man possessed. You want to gain back all that time that you lost, and so Carruth able to get back by the 17-year-old out of Canada, and Lapsevich has to regroup here. Had a couple of mistakes, but looking smoother now.
Back and forth they go, still for the 5th position on the racetrack. Pit window expected to open within the next couple laps. Make it to the end of the fuel tanks for this one. Again, for those just tuning in, you're watching the Logitech G30 from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway for coverage eNASCAR International iRacing Series competition. More coverage coming up right after this here from Daytona.
When I hit the wall, this thing shook like crazy.
I have experienced that in real life, so I can compare.
I tend to choose rally games that are really putting the actuators through their paces, and they've been holding up really well.
That's exactly how it is in real life. That's the coolest part.
Side through the corner. This is for the win. Still far abreast into the braking zone. This is sensational racing. And getting ready to cross. He goes around the outside, but it's not enough.
And away by it all.
Round 2. Gonna come back at him. It's gonna be a race to the line. Does he have enough?
Welcome back to iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway for coverage of the D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series presented by Digital Motorsports and the Logitech G30. Approaching the halfway point of the race, Alan Day early leads by 5.2 seconds over Paul Giuffreau. Now an hour is 8 seconds back currently to reset your top 3 among some of the battles on circuit. So is still in the midst of some groupings. For 8th on back, Justin Campbell has kept him friendly and kept him close all run. They've been joined by some more friends though. Gutierrez has reeled on in this pack during the break. As well, Delara is back within about a second of this grouping 2 after leading this pack at one point just about 5-10 laps ago. As we approach the halfway point, Devin, your opinion on how things have fared out with mixtures of bumping and banging, but also drivers trying to take care of their equipment when they aren't touching the curbs, as Trey Lapsevich has just pit.
Absolutely, and that's a little scary right there, going through those chicanes and hitting on top of those turtles and those bumps, because you're never quite sure what that's going to end up doing to the car in sim. Typically, you know, the undercarriages here aren't going to get messed up by driving over there. But, oh, hold on to it. Gutierrez is able to save that, but that's where those rear tires right now, they are getting very hot. Expect pit stops to start coming soon. You already said Lapsevich coming down for service, and I would expect to see this 23 coming in soon as well, as now Del Sol missing the corner. This will allow Justin Campbell fighting for this 8th position. Not necessarily in the prime opportunity spot on that right side. Able to clear, though, and move up that 81 to P10.
That's P7 actually currently on the circuit, in fact, for Campbell. It's been an impressive run, I will say, for Justin Campbell. We talked a bit about him. Again, one of the returning drivers. And last season, I will say, the 81 did not have the greatest of times. The first couple races were definitely a learning experience for Campbell. More so an oval guy, of course, with his experience, but has since then picked up a lot. He's now able to pull away, though, from the battle on behind because Gutierrez has also passed the 10 with Del Sol's tires going off a cliff.
Yeah, you saw Del Sol dirt tracking it around that out and able to get back onto NASCAR 1 and 2, at least without too much pain, and has to give up that spot to the 16-year-old driver out of the NASCAR Peak Mexico Series. Coming off a third-place points finish in 2021 for Federico Gutierrez, and actually just celebrated his 16th birthday just a couple weeks ago. So inside the top 10 right now, we'll see what the young Mexican's able to do as Campbell is going to relinquish this spot as well. So now move that 23 up to P7.
64, the 50 have also just ducked into the pit lane this time, coming towards the halfway point next time around, so the undercut is on, and it can be powerful here. The fall off for the drivers already 2 seconds, Devin, over the course of about 15 laps. How will this help? That's not going to help. The 64 runs the box.
That will be massive for Jufro because now he's going to lose a lot of time on track to Allende. We'll see how long that 21 car stays out, but now that we are almost 15 laps down, we still have over 50 virtual miles to race here. So when you're cutting the stint in half, how bad the tires look right now, that is how chaotic they are going to be once they get back on track and are racing for that checkered flag. So there's a lot of notes being taken right now about how this car is going to run when you're vying for those final positions on the closing laps of this race, because it's going to look almost identical.
For reference, Jake Cozio, who is a lap down, by the way, right now after a bad start to this one, is on fresh tires. You've already seen he's put away several car lengths. He'll pull more because the 23 of Gutierrez is trying to manhandle the car. Nearly spins it around. What a save by Gutierrez.
Man, he's got to bring that car in. Gutierrez is being a wheelman right now, but that cannot be fun. Has to relinquish that position back to Justin Campbell and have to go back on the fight as DeLara does the same thing, coming out back onto the NASCAR track. He really ripped out that rear end, and he's losing some time here as Alex de Alba will now close in.
Everybody's tires starting to go off here with things being stretched about. Roger Carruth technically is second on track. Said his name, he hit a turtle, by the way, for second. So Carruth will have a slowdown as a result. He picks up back on the gas. He's got assistance from Jarrett Liebert on the box today. Meanwhile, Day, he's now heading towards his virtual pit box for his service of the race at halfway.
Three-time NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series champion on pit road. Championships back in 17, 18, and 2020. Actually became the first driver from the European Series to compete in the NASCAR Cup Series, taking part in California at Sonoma back in 2017 and Richmond back in 2018 in its 2 NASCAR Cup Series starts. And now with the issue so far tonight with Victor Morales, right now holds your points lead as well. So the Ashdod Israel driver right now having himself a great day as he has been flawless all race long.
Was also ducked in this time by for his service, Campbell DeLara, also into the pit lane. The only driver stretching it right now, Gutierrez de Alba, yet to take service amongst the top 10 cars on the circuit. Gutierrez, though, is coming out right next today. That just shows how big the lead has gotten for the 21 compared to some of the mid-pack.
And that's absolutely incredible. Watch Allende here just drive right by, and Federico Gutierrez is going to have a time. Almost got into the grass. He's got to come in for tires eventually. Maybe he's just trying to weigh it out as long as he can because he knows I don't want to drive with tires like this at the end of this race. So let's try to just do whatever I can right now to keep this car on track and have the freshest tires later on in the race. But like you said, this has a lot about Allende's lead and just how smooth he has been. I think even though we still have 21 cars on track, I think Allende has been the only car to be perfectly smooth throughout these opening 15 laps.
I'm trying to see if I'm seeing that right. Is he doing this with one hand or two? There is a little bit of a stand blocking the left hand for his viewpoint. You see how he wheels it with the right hand for his sim rig. In fact, I think he has a full-on rig you have to sit in and is surrounded by wall-to-wall.
Look at him work that wheel.
Yep,
going
there's the hand.
There's the left hand. I was agreeing with you, Justin. I was like, holy cow. Because that chicane right there, you saw just how treacherous and how aggressive he was driving through that chicane. I can't imagine how difficult that would be for the Wheel and Series driver out of Europe to do that with one hand. But you can kind of see, even though he's got that laser focus in the eyes, he looks more relaxed than I've seen the other drivers on cam so far, and he really has his tempo and his pace set right now. Look at him work this wheel through the front straightaway chicane too. That's just how treacherous these tracks are, and if you hit those turtles while you're ripping that wheel, it always causes mass destruction every single time.
You also keep an eye on what's happening behind. Jafro has been held up a little bit by Gutierrez, who just had that swap about. The Alba pit this time around as well. Only the 23 is yet to take service amongst the front runners. 48 is also yet to pit on track as well. And as these cars continue about, I'm curious to see how they play out on the second stint. Morales in particular is up to 9th, looking towards a net 8th for reference. It's actually picked up spots as a result of the pit call.
The 2020 NASCAR Mexico iRacing Series champion also has himself a boatload of top 10s in their FedEx Series, their Challenge Series, one of the support series out there in Mexico for the NASCAR Series. And he's just been so good. The 23-year-old out of Potosí, Mexico, San Luis Potosí, Mexico, has had himself a great run so far the past few weeks, and on full damage control, came into tonight leading the points and now having to climb back up. You saw he had a lot of front-end damage, went on pit road, used his lone fast repair. And like you said, Justin, his trek up has definitely been significant, up to P9, but he's still 5 seconds behind Frederic Gabillon for that 8th position, so still a lot of work to do for that 39. To grab whatever points he's able to is now Rajah Caruth is working on Trajan Lapsevich here for the 6th position on track.
Give them credit. This series, I believe, has given some good respect amongst the two of them with how they've raced in this campaign and the camaraderie they've built on the track. But as we've already crossed the halfway point of tonight's action, it's time to bring you the iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing. iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually on Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. In the race lead, after pit stops for a majority of the field, Day is in the lead by about 4.3 seconds. After one lap later stop, then second place driver Paul Jufro. Jufro looking to close the gap, slightly older tires. Then Tobias Dallenhauer is in third position behind the Speedhouse machine, the 50. Has about a 1 second gap to Simon Pilot. And remember what happened the last time those two drivers met on the circuit. Gutierrez has pit from originally 5th this lap. That's moved Caruth up to 5th overall on the circuit, with Trajan Lapsevich now cycling to 6th on circuit right on behind. They're making their way through the infield as well. The next driver behind is Gabriel, who is in 8th position currently. Check that 7th with the best run for him this season. Victor Morales on recovery drive is in 8th. Del So is in 9th spot, the biggest mover, up 11th positions. Meanwhile, it's also in the midst of a battle with Giorgio Maggi to round out your top 10, Devin.
Justin Campbell, the driver for Diversity driver, right now in the 11th position. A few of the NASCAR Peak Mexico Series drivers follow him. Alex de Alba, Federico Gutierrez, Miguel Gomez up to P14. Gordon Barnes right now driving in that 15th position. Davide Del Lara in the 16th spot. Vladimiro Ciolzi will right now be in that 17th position with Jocelyn Fecto in P18. Yevgen Skolowski in 19th position. Jacosio 1 lap down, or 2 laps down rather, in the 20th position. Massimiliano Lanza right now in the 21st position, rounding out all the cars left on track, sitting 3 laps down.
Sanchez at DNF Taguinani did not take the green flag, by the way, today. This concludes today's iRacing Midway Race Break. 170,000 drivers on the service and more than 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from. iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. And to emphasize the amount of numbers there for the drivers, some of the statistics came in during the week from special event action at this facility last week for the road course event going on. Its rear-world counterpart. Upwards of more than 20 years worth of laps were turned in the span of a couple days on the service alone. 15,000 drivers or teams.
Absolutely remarkable. The amount of participants, the thousands who competed in that 24-hour Daytona race last week, and now we get to see it in the real world along with this International Series race happening at Daytona as well. And yeah, like you said, Justin, just absolutely remarkable. And of course, some of these drivers also taking part in that 24-hour race last week along with the International Series event. So iRacing definitely growing. You see a lot of these drivers, even though they're in Europe or in Mexico or elsewhere around the world, there are a lot of drivers 40 plus, even beyond that. Fecteau is a 49-year-old Canadian racing here. Gordon Barnes in the top 15 out of the UK, 48 years old. And then you go all the way down to the 16-year-old Federico Gutierrez. Trajan Lapsevich, just 17 years old. A lot of these young drivers racing against guys who are more than twice, almost 3 times their age in some cases. Absolutely incredible to see here on the platform.
Here is Trajan Lapsevich in his viewpoint as you see him dialed in and making sure his settings are correct down the straightaway. For Trajan Lapsevich, longtime sim racer, but longtime real world racer as well, from the very famous Lapsevich family. Of course, you all know the story of Caden Lapsevich, a former NASCAR Pinty Series champion, runs a lot of short track action in the States and Canada now as well. Trajan, in turn, made his way to Pinty Series competition over the past year. Also runs a lot in the very short track series in the province of Ontario. But there's also the third Lapsevich coming up the pipeline, and Ryan Lapsevich, who worked with Trajan at Delaware Speedway to race a part of their weekly campaigns last year.
And the eldest Caden, the 2016 Pinty Series champion. And how about the story for Trajan getting into the NASCAR Pinty Series? Made his debut filling in for the one and only Alex Tagliani at Sunset Speedway back in 2020. A doubleheader event, he finished in the top 5 in both. Cedric Gabillon looks like he's parking on the front straightaway.
So, I think he just had a money shift there, Devin. Yes, he has had a shift go the wrong direction at the start and finish line. The 3 has to tow.
Man, that is devastating for the 45-year-old Frenchman, the Iron Man of Euro NASCAR. He at least has a fast repair, but that is going to be a massive tow back to pit road.
That was the best run the 3 had been having all season before that situation. Unfortunate, top 10 run in the cards beforehand. Look back to Trajan. Also getting assistance today from a fellow friend and another driver getting ready for NASCAR Xfinity Series competition, one Parker Retzlaff. They worked together at one point on the Technical Alliance side when it came to racing.
Another great aspect of sim racing, right? And so Lapsevich able to learn a lot, real world, sim world, and now you look at Maggi, I thought almost had a moment there as he was a little bit sideways trying to hold off Justin Campbell for this 9th position, and Maggi doing whatever he can to try to keep that kid behind him. And the 24-year-old Swiss driver had himself a good season this year, had himself a top 5, 7 top 10s in 2021 Euro NASCAR in the Pro Series, and even picked up a runner-up position in the points back in Euro NASCAR 2 in 2019. Picked up 3 wins that year, including the season opener as a rookie in Valencia, Spain. So picked up a name for himself quickly out there in the Euro Series, and now here in the sim world trying to make up some spots.
Exit coming out of the chicane as well to be able to pull some distance on the 81 of Campbell. Again, 5 car length the distance amongst them, coming to 10 laps to go for these drivers this time. He has already taken that mark with a bit of traffic ahead. As he comes off the corner, he's able to build up more corner exit speed. It looks like Campbell's starting to struggle on exit. Had to lift a bit on the corner exit, the past 2 major hard braking zones, Devin, in fact.
And this is what these cars are going to do as the tires and the brakes and the car itself continues to evolve as the 69 gets wicked out of shapes. I don't know how Maggi's able to keep that car straight, but somehow, some way able to keep this car in the infield at least and keep it on track. But now Alex de Alba will begin breathing down his neck as they go through the International Horseshoe.
Alba looking to salvage a top 10 enter today amongst the top 10 of the point standings. Here's the look for Maggi meanwhile. Are focused is the 69 machine despite the slides. Looks like a little bit of movement as well with that rig.
Absolutely love it. Oh, here comes the Alba really poking the nose in on that rear bumper in that Ford Mustang. Maggi will keep him at bay for now, but that 24-year-old out of the Peak Mexico Series really putting on the pressure here as they get back onto the NASCAR part of the track.
Send possibly for the 14 if there's an open opportunity in this train for 10th now. Is this spot? Alba looking for one of his better runs of the season. Again, De Alba showed great speed at the end of races throughout this entire campaign, has not had the luck go his direction with how things started off for today, but has shown good speed to the point where he's been nearly matching the race leader pace from most of the day.
And you love to see that. What you don't really love to see, though, is the fact that he's over 30 seconds behind. About a quarter of a lap as he now gets the inside of the 69 machine, Amaji, and move up Alex de Alba inside of this top 10. And he's not too far away from Justin Campbell, just shy of a second. So still more cars to pick up potentially for the NASCAR Mexico Series driver.
Heat again, starting all the way at the very back of the field from the pit lane after his troubles earlier, as talked about. 10 laps to go for those just tuning in for today's action. It's been a stellar run for Day. Some battles such as this one are continuing to fare out. Gordon Barnes with one of his best runs of the season to Devon. He's trying to hold on with a very crumpled up front bumper. Doesn't matter though, when you're trying to battle for position, all that matters is the spots.
The 48-year-old out of Colchester, United Kingdom, in that heated battle with Dallara, able to hold him off for now. Actually won the 2021 NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series Club Challenge title. Won those support series, picking up 5 wins and 10 starts along with 6 podiums. And at 48 years old, he actually started Formula V racing 20 years ago. And, of course, Formula V now part of the iRacing world as well, as Dallara gets back to the inside here. What a wild career it's been for the 48-year-old out of the UK. A little bit hefty there coming off the corner. Dallara will reclaim that 14th position. Banging doors down the straight.
And I think Barnes just pulled the ejector cord, realizing his mistake there into the kink. Dallara, though, nearly throws the time back away, nearly spins it out in the horseshoes.
The Italian almost giving it all the way back, Justin. You just see how burned up these tires already are with still 9 laps to go.
Hearing some of the gears, if you hear some of the motors from there, really struggling. Compare that to Barnes. Barnes nearly sent it, locking up the front tires, trying to send it for the battle.
It's all about the adaptability, trying to keep up with how these cars change. And when you get into a fierce battle, it can change drastically in a matter of corners in terms of the heat in the tires, the heat in the brakes, and just finding those correct turning points, especially when there's someone next to you. And for now, the driver out of Parma, Italy, Dallara, will continue to grow that gap. Started racing in karts about 17 years ago, but also a big fan of pop, punk, and rock music, apparently. And so I kind of like the style out of the Parma, Italy drivers. So Dallara, he had a good run going earlier, had himself some issues, though, and stuck back in this 14th position now for the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series.
Gotta love that type of music sometimes, you know. You have a favorite song that you picked up from that genre?
Oh, my gosh. I listen to 50s rock all the time, so whether it be Little Richard or Chuck Berry or Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley, that might be older than what he's thinking, but that's where I'm going straight to.
Wow. Didn't even know that about you, actually.
So some of these drivers might actually know some of those names. I don't know about some of these 16-year-olds.
Meanwhile, some of the youngsters still battling about. Justin Campbell, driver diversity driver, still continues to hold on and still is drifting, and they have been joined by a new challenger. Challenger's name, Rico Gutierrez. Freshest tires in the pack.
Oh, yeah, he's got to be happy with those tires as the 81. Campbell really misses that corner coming back onto the track. The only benefit with missing that corner is sometimes you're able to get on the gas sooner, but that momentum just doesn't pay enough dividends when you don't have a draft, and that's going to lose him 2 positions as Federico Gutierrez now slides inside the top 10. 2-time NASCAR Mexico Truck Series champion, also 2-time national champion in Mexico when it comes to karting, and one of the 16-year-olds, in fact, now trying to follow behind a fellow Mexico Series driver, Alex de Alba, as they're all tracking down Ulysses Del So.
A bit of a clip of the curb as well for De Alba, coming to 7 laps to go for this group this time by. Leader has taken that mark. Gutierrez, very impressive, I will say, for the 23 machine. Hasn't started in the past couple weeks or so, but has shown good pace and consistency after some of the early struggles today. De Alba struggles to make this corner.
Ooh.
Here comes the run. Gutierrez says thank you very much. Bye-bye.
I tell you what, even in the sim world, that's a scary feeling to have a stock car bicycle on you going straight into the wall at Daytona. That would be a massive hit, but luckily enough, I don't know how he's able to do it. De Alba was really able to resettle that car in a quick amount of time. Still loses that spot to Federico Gutierrez, and I'm curious to see as this race gets down to the wire, can he really pull these guys time-wise? Because we saw just how difficult this car was. It was devilish, if you will, when he was trying to work with old tires. Is he able to actually go and run down the cars in front of him like Del Sol and Morales, or is he just kind of stuck here trying to hold off De Alba and Campbell?
Big question, keep in mind. Gutierrez running 158 flats. Before that pass, De Alba and Campbell were running nearly a second slower. Part of that was with the squabbling, Devin. Part of that is just that raw pace we've seen from the 23 before he elected to go for the overcut.
Oh man, I think he's looking too much in the mirror potentially. Really missed the past two corners, and De Alba's back at him. Started to slide up into the 23, but able to reclaim this position in the car. Able to now take away that spot once more to the 9th position. Man, Gutierrez, that car from looking comfortable and fast looked mighty uncomfortable and swingish at best once he reached those last two corners.
But for Gutierrez to try and think about things towards the in and out, if not towards the final chicane. This time around with 6 to go, Campbell throws his chance away. He picked up more of the turtles by overrunning both parts of the exit of the bus stop area. Now that 23 of Gutierrez has some good speed behind Alba, as Campbell has lost about a second from that mistake we referenced.
These two Mexico Series drivers have had plenty of success in that truck series. Mentioned Federico Gutierrez, a two-time winner in that series, finished 3rd in points 1 season ago. De Alba's had some better finishes in the truck series, 2017 champion, 2018 runner-up in that Mexico truck series. De Alba now really beginning to extend this gap here on his fellow Peak Mexico Series drivers. They get back into the infield portion of this track.
Here is still a few cars back as they pass a spinning car. That is Vecto, who has had an incident from 19th. Second of this run, by the way. So the 17 from the NASCAR Pinty Series, 77 should say, Vecto with some trouble is back on going, still is in 19th despite the spin.
And Justin, how about Victor Morales having his issues early, coming in tonight as the points leader? He's able to recover back up to that 7th position. I don't think he's going to be able to catch Trey and Lapsevich, but what a recovery. Someone who had to use a fast repair. Not a lot of these drivers had to use a fast repair in this event so far today, but I'm really astounded at how well he has been able to recover. He's going to lose the points lead, but at the end of the day, what a job he has done to minimize the damage tonight in the semifinal.
We'll still lose a decent amount of ground, yes. 10 points the difference between first place points and 7th place points. But he's still in a decent spot. Only down 5 when you compare that to Day, and where Day is currently settling with 5 to go.
Exactly, and that's all you have to do in this situation is minimize that damage that you are seeing up in front of you. Well, I guess you're not going to see Alhan Day at this point. As heck, he's almost 9 seconds ahead of Jufro in the 2nd place position anyway. And again, how about this? This would be incredible. 3 straight wins for the driver out of Ashdod, Israel in the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series. The 3-time Euro champion, NASCAR Next alum. Man, 3 in a row. No other driver has multiple wins in this international series, and he might just sweep the road courses in season number 2 of this international series.
And under 5 laps to go, we like to remind you that the eNASCAR International iRacing Series is presented by Motorsports. Not only do they have a proven track record of building high-end simulators, but they also host professionally run online racing events. They strive to master the best aspects of real racing and bring the experience to you virtually. Learn more by going to www.digital-motorsports.com today. Back in the battle, this is a month for Gutierrez, Campbell as well. You also have De Alba trying to pull away, as well as some lap traffic. Gutierrez can get back within range of the 14, has lost 3 seconds since the last peak moments ago.
And this is where you have to find that patience, right? 5 laps to go. What else can that 23 car, Federico Gutierrez, do to maintain this little bit of a gap that he has on the NASCAR Drive for Diversity driver? Gutierrez, a part of that NASCAR Peak Mexico Series. And the Drive for Diversity driver, Justin Campbell. Even though completely different countries, both race car drivers in the NASCAR Series at just age 16. couple of teenagers duking it out at the tail end of this road course race at Daytona.
For a chance for a strong finish to the last road course race on the calendar. Remember, we talked about this Phoenix Raceway, the finale for this series. And as we mentioned, the wild card, especially when you reference Day and his struggles at Homestead, was involved in several crashes there. And drivers like Raja Karu were front runners, Trey Lapsevich front runners, Miguel Gomez, who runs a lot of iRacing competition, especially on the oval side, was up there as well at one point.
And I really think Phoenix Raceway is going to better suit some of these road course drivers than the race at Homestead Miami Speedway. As the 51, a lap down, goes for a little bit of a ride there, a little bit too hot as Jake Osillo is able to clean things back up and get back on track. But as I was saying, I think Phoenix Raceway is going to be more of an equalizer than Homestead was. Maybe not by a massive amount, but when you have the speeds, the rip in the lip, high side driving at Homestead Miami Speedway compared to Phoenix, somewhere where you get right back down on that yellow line, cutting the dog leg, your wheel feels similar as going through some of these chicanes as it bounces left and right. But more importantly, some of the high braking zones as you enter 1 and 3 might be a little bit more accustomed to these road course racers as opposed to the kind of tapping on the brakes to set the car, turn the car, and save that right front at Homestead. So I'm curious to see if some of these road course ringers have an easier time handling Phoenix than they did at Homestead.
Intriguing to see how things fare out next week as we take a look at how things are faring out still with Barnes. Remember, was battling at one point for 15th, has dropped back into a battle for 16th. And Gabriel, remember, blew a motor a while back. He is on 5 lap fresher tires in turn after the tow. We'll see if the 3 can use that to an advantage to at least recover some points to end off this one.
A staple of the NASCAR Euro Series with 84 career starts, more than anyone else in the history of Euro NASCAR at the top level of the sport over there. The 45-year-old freshman, another one who's just trying to have damage control and do whatever he can to gain the spots possible to save his day, closing in here on Gordon Barnes and has about 2.5 more laps to make something work.
That bit of a bobble, though, will force a reset here. They are also reeling in Ziotzi's. Has been having a quiet second stint in the one car after the bumping and banging that machine seen early on in this one.
And Teotsi is a really cool part of Euro NASCAR, even though still fairly new to the top level. Competed as a rookie in 2020 and actually finished 4th in points. But the first ever driver from Cyprus to enter the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series, and also a 7-year champion in karting in the country of Cyprus, coming off of a pole in 9 top 10s in the Euro NASCAR 2 Series last year. A really interesting, really cool part of Euro NASCAR the past couple of years, becoming the first driver from Cyprus to compete in the Euro NASCAR Series.
It's so intriguing, some of the backgrounds in terms for some of these competitors and some of the upbringings, because there's plenty of veterans, as we talked about in the series, but plenty of youngsters coming up. These are some of the best when it comes to the world of stock car racing, in most cases here in this field outside the U.S. And we've seen that speed come into play as Gabriel has taken back 16th.
And for a lot of these drivers, especially the ones abroad outside the States, they got their start in kart racing. Now, that's not surprising. What is surprising to me is a lot of the Americans as well. There's one who did Bandoleros, but a lot of them actually started in kart racing as well. So almost all the drivers that you see on track today got their racing beginnings kart racing locally, and then some of these guys becoming national champions, whether it be in Cyprus or whether it be in Mexico or other countries in Europe. A lot of these guys becoming national champions in karting and working their way up to either the Euro Series or the Mexico Series or the Arca Menard Series here in America. So a really interesting point, and some of these drivers with aspirations to come and compete in the U.S. in the Cup Series one day, like the German, Tobias Downenhauer. That's one of his goals, his dreams, is to come to America and compete at the highest level of NASCAR in the most competitive part of stock car racing in the United States. So it's really interesting how a lot of these guys are starting in a similar spot, and they all want to end in a similar spot as well.
About a lap and a half to go, by the way, in this one. You're at Daytona International Speedway. And I will say, one of the drivers with that experience at the top level of NASCAR competition in the Cup Series, Lante, another dominant one. 12 seconds, now the gap between first and second, with a lap and a half to go at the World Center of Racing.
the 3-time NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series champion. Now looking to become a champion in the International Series. Obviously, you still have to get through that Phoenix Raceway event, and he had his troubles at Homestead, and I think that he will be putting in significant practice time to race at Phoenix Raceway, because he will certainly have a shot to add an iRacing championship to his large pedigree of victories. 24-time winner, the all-time wins leader in the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series at the top level of European stock car racing. Now he might be able to grab an iRacing championship on top of it. Set himself up really well through this 3-race road course stint in this 5-race series.
Absolute domination today from Day has led every lap so far, coming to the end of lap 29. Getting ready to take the white flag for the final time around here at Daytona for the Logitech G30. This would be the 3rd straight victory on the campaign for Day and would vault Day to the points lead after having a horrific start to the season. He's had a terrific road course portion of the calendar. Final lap from Daytona.
I mean, you go back to just a couple of weeks ago and how far out of the point lead he actually was. And he's had a little bit of help. Obviously, a very poor day for Victor Morales, running into his problems throughout the race. And he came into tonight 5 points above Alon Day. And great on him, though, to be able to come back and get himself a great run back up to the 7th position. Still going to lose points. Then you have Traden Lapcevich, the driver next behind him, 3rd in points. He's not inside the top 5 either. So the 2 drivers that right now Alon Day is fighting against, sitting in 6th and 7th. And I think the guy that everyone will be looking towards when we go to Phoenix is going to be Rajah Caruth. He's done great at the ovals. That's his bread and butter. Has a win already this year at the oval track, but came into tonight nearly 20 points off of the points lead. He's doing better than Lapcevich and Morales. He's the only driver who looks to be a championship competitor inside the top 5 besides Alon Day. So a lot of eyes will be on this 13 and the 21 next week at Phoenix.
Run for Caruth on a road course this season for reference. Finished just outside the top 5 at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And of course the DNF, as noted for Zolder. This time around for Daytona, though, looking to hold on to 5th. Good recovery drive as well for Simon Pilot for 3rd. But down the back straightaway for the final time, Day just half a lap away, make it a 1/3 of the way from celebrating a victory in the 21.
And obviously the last 2 races, he's been oh so impressive. But I think that tonight, to this morning, wherever the heck you are in the world, is the most impressive because of how smooth, how perfect he has been. This has been an absolute clinic out of the 30-year-old from Israel.
To the final chicane, Alon Day has been dominant. For the 3rd consecutive race, he'll win in the D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series presented by Digital Motorsports. He wins the Logitech G30 at Daytona.
And what is the celebration? A sigh of relief. Boy, he's going to be excited to hit Phoenix Raceway next week. What a finish for Alon Day in this road course stint. 3 in a row, the only repeat winner in this series all time is Paul Giffreau. Whips it around through the start-finish line as well. A 2nd place finish for the number 64 car driver. Really great finish for the 18-year-old.
Best run for him of the season. It looks like it may feel like a win after this one, but for Day it is a win. In fact, for the whole podium it feels like a win. The whole top 4, in fact. If you're a fan of NASCAR Euro competition, that is a 1, 2, 3, 4 for their series and their backing of drivers. A stellar run for the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series competitors today at Daytona. As the celebrations and the burnouts start to build up in the midst of the in and out, these drivers will get the chance to take a bit of a breath here after this one. The festivities continue for post-race, and we'll get the chance to talk to those drivers the next few moments and see how things fared out result-wise. Right after this, you're watching eNASCAR competition here on Daytona.
Louder, louder, louder.
so cool and so realistic and gives you the ultimate feel and the most realistic feel.
I love the bumps. They really made me feel like, really realistic.
This is engaging all of your senses.
Side by side through the corner. This is for the win. Still 4 abreast into the braking zone. This is sensational racing.
And getting ready to cross. He goes around the outside, but it's not enough. And hunting for a way by it all. Hollander's gonna come back at him. It's gonna be a race to the line. Does he have enough?
Welcome back to today's coverage of the Deep Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series presented by Digital Motorsports, who are looking to give away a sim racing rig to the person who can predict who is the top driver for the series this season. Be sure to find out more by going to www.d-box.com/eNASCAR/contest. Follow the D-Box newsletter, and you could win this rig. Digital Motorsports NASCAR simulator outfitted with D-Box haptic technology, the best motion system on the market. Some great action today here from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway. In the end, for the third consecutive week, it was Alain Day putting on a clinic in the Logitech G30 to take home the victory, 13.8 seconds the differential at the end. Audrey Fro comes home in second with his best run of the season in the 64, while Simon Pilot finished in third to round out your podium. Fourth spot went to Tobias Dallenhauer, with Roger Carruth with his first top 5 of the road course this season, his best run since his win at Homestead. Traded Lapsevich finished in 6th today, about 9 seconds back. Victor Morales recovered after a major incident in the middle of the horseshoes after an excursion by Pilot to finish in 7th. Elso finished in 8th position after starting in 20th after not setting a qualifying time. Alba and Gutierrez the top 10 Devon.
Drive for Diversity driver Justin Campbell brings it home in the 11th position today. Giorgio Maggi, a boatload of Wheel and Euro Series drivers follow him in 12th. Miguel Gomez in the 13th position. Davide De Lara in 14th. Gordon Barnes in P15, followed by Vladimiros Tiotsi. Yevgen Sokolovsky in 17th. And then you have a Pinty Series driver, Canadian finally, Jocelyn Fecteau in 18th position. Pedro Caballon out of Europe in 19th. Jake Cosio, the only Mexico driver between 11th and 20th.
21st spot went the direction of Lanza, who made it to about 15 laps before DNFing, and Nicolas Sanchez parked it after a massive incident. The horseshoes, 26 laps down. Alex Tagliani did not take the green flag today here at Daytona. It was entertaining to say the very least, but for Alain Day, it was a sigh of relief when he came across the stripe to win his third consecutive race. Alain Day now joins us in the broadcast booth. Third straight victory on the trot. A dominant stretch on the road courses for you. How are you feeling after this one?
Kind of relief. After Homestead, I knew that if I want to fight for this championship, I need to win all of those road courses races. Yeah, I can say mission accomplished. But now that's the money time, and I need to put some practice for Phoenix and try to grab the championship.
You mentioned, of course, the strong performance projected right now to have that points lead, coming in trailing Morales by 5, outscoring him today in the end by 5, in turn 10, should say, to get a 5-point advantage in theory. But how would you describe that drive to be able to charge your way back up after the struggles at Homestead and then taking the road courses by storm by absolutely putting on blistering pace everywhere?
I have to say that iRacing is half of my life. So I put quite a lot of time, even before this championship. I invest a lot of time in iRacing. iRacing is part of my normal practice routine, even for the real life. So I don't know about the other drivers, but I really put some concentration and some effort in being on my absolute top in iRacing and trying to push my iRating high. So I think this is what actually makes me that quick. I have to say that the other guys did an amazing job, especially at the start. They really pushed me hard, but the moment I think Simon made a mistake and cut the chicane, that's the moment I realize I have no pressure. I just need to manage a good race, manage the tires, making a good pit stop, not making any mistakes, and yeah, that was pretty much that's it.
Now, the last time at an oval, it was not pretty. Homestead, Miami,
No, it
not
wasn't.
the best run. Phoenix is that wild card. Your thoughts on Phoenix to close it out?
I'm pretty sure the other guys from the Pinty's championship, the Mexican and the guys from Arca, and yeah, everybody that are not participating in the NASCAR will in Euro Series, I think they will be very strong because they have quite a lot of oval experience. And I think if I want to really be there at the end of the championship and win the championship, I guess that's going to be tough. And I learned from Homestead that qualifying is really important and starting at the front, because what happened last time, it was just starting from the back of the field and caught in some unfortunate huge wreck. I really don't want that to happen again. So yeah, I will try to practice as much as I can to prepare myself the best I can for Phoenix.
Congratulations on the victory once again to Alonde, your winner today here at Daytona.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See you next week.
Once again, Alonde coming away with 3 straight victories on the trot in this one. And with that, second place on the pylon went to the direction of Paul Giuffreau, who put in plenty of preparation work for this one. He's with Devin Henry.
Yeah, the 18-year-old Frenchman, second place in an all-Euro Series podium today at Daytona. And Paul, I gotta say, man, when you finish second to one of the greatest Euro Series drivers of all time, it's a pretty good day. How would you sum up how you were able to stay in front of everyone here and bring home a second place finish at Daytona?
Yeah, I'm really happy because I put a lot of rock this week. I passed so many time on the practice. So yeah, this is I've done the job what I wanted, and yeah, at the start I even thought that I will be able to catch Alon, because the 2 first laps that I was at behind him, I was a bit faster on the brake, but after he's so strong on the end on the stint, so it's really hard. But yeah, I'm really happy with this P2.
And now we move on over to Phoenix next week. And even Alonde was like, some of us Euro Series guys might be at a disadvantage for next week. How do you see Phoenix working out for some of you guys who don't really have that much oval experience? Maybe what have you learned so far that you can take into that race at Phoenix and try to keep on competing?
Yeah, for sure. I think all the Euro NASCAR driver will have some struggle with this track, but yeah, I think that we will all put the work what we need to put, and yeah, we're gonna give everything, and we have a lot to learn. And yeah, I'm sure that we can do a good another weekend.
Last year, able to take part in the Club Challenge for Speedhouse. This year, making your rookie debut in Euro NASCAR for the full season. What has this iRacing series kind of meant to you, though? Being able to race with some of these Euro guys, whether it be Euro 2 or the Premier Series as well, being able to race with them and other drivers from across the world a part of NASCAR.
Yeah, last year I wasn't doing some races, so yeah, I'm happy to see that I have the rhythm, but it's on the PC, so it's not the real life. But it's hard to answer this question, but I will do all my possible to do a good season this year. We will not, we will not miss a step with my team manager. We will do everything for me to be a good driver, but not fast too early. So yeah, this is a lot of work that I will have to put this year. But yeah, I'm happy to drive, with Simon Pilat, with Tobias, because these are drivers that I will race next year.
Paul Giuffreau coming home in second here today at Daytona. Congratulations on your second place finish, Paul.
Thank you.
And rounding out an all Euro Series podium, Simon Pilot brings it home in the third place position tonight. Man, what a day for the Euro Series drivers, Justin.
Yes, indeed. A lot of experience for these drivers when it came to the virtual racing, but for Simon Pilot, he'll be able to celebrate this one on the podium, being joined now by him. A strong run for you again. How would you describe your recovery after some of the trouble early?
It was quite tough. I guess I took a lot of risk during the overtakings to try to make it up for the mistake I did in the beginning and then the contact I had. But then in the end, I just tried to, every time, one person at a time, take my time and then try to get the person in front of me afterwards.
And it was interesting to see how that charge fared out for you. How would you describe the mindset trying to make that ground back up and turn, trying to make passes, trying to pick your spots to get back right where you were before the trouble?
Well, it's mostly analysis, try to see where I can brake later than the other person. In Daytona, I was pretty lucky. There are multiple places for this. Especially turn 1 was my favorite corner to overtake because we have a tendency to get a bit wide before coming back in, and I can just slide inside to get the position. So that's probably the main tip I'll have to say.
Now, I will say for all the drivers from the NASCAR Women Euro Series, a 1, 2, 3, 4, what do you feel that says for the talent level from your grouping, knowing how you guys have performed in the road courses this season and the statement made of all 4 of you started up in the top 4, stayed in the top 4 in the end?
I think it's a bit of a question of habit. We have a bit more practice on road courses than the other guys, I think. On oval, we were the ones a bit behind. But we can see the progress of the other guys getting closer to us, so it's a constant challenge to stay in the top 5 or top 3, even though right now we're dominating the road courses.
Of course, the season ends off on an oval. To end things on off, thank you very much for the time, Simon.
Thank you.
My Pommick coming home with the podium to round things on off for today, and Devin. Entertaining today. Good performances throughout, but in the end, Day takes the points lead and can confirm it is a 5-point advantage over Victor Morales with 1 race to go. You also have Simon Pilot, who is within range, about 11 back amongst the front runners for the championship. But it's your home track, but anything could happen based on what we've seen the last oval. Devin.
I was so speechless because I love Phoenix Raceway so much. No, but when you go to Phoenix Raceway that anything can happen. We saw it in the real world, in the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, the finish with Daniel Hemrick and Austin Cindric to the line, the late race caution that really allowed Kyle Larson back into that championship hunt. It's not just where the cautions fall, it's how you set yourself up for that potential upcoming caution or that really long last green flag run. And that's where the Americans are going to have a little bit more opportunity to get back on top of this championship hunt. Roger Caruth is not going to be a favorite number-wise just because he's a little bit further back. But because you see some of these drivers out of the Euro Series, like they admitted, we don't race ovals. I mean, even some of the Mexico Series and the Pinty Series drivers are going to be a little bit behind, but some of that short track experience is going to help them on this 1 mile oval. And I really think that maybe unlike tonight where the Euro Series drivers dominated, we're going to see a little bit more of that international flair floating in that melting pot where you're going to have a Canadian here, an American here, a Euro Series driver here, and a Mexican here. I'm really excited for what Phoenix is going to bring because I think out of all the tracks on the circuit this season, this is going to be the greatest equalizer for everyone.
It's going to be fun to see how things fare out again. February the 5th is the date for that finale. Again, it is at Phoenix Raceway, the home championship weekend for NASCAR competition. It's going to be intriguing. It's going to be wild. Who will come away with the series title? You'll find out at 12 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune in once more on eNASCAR.com/live. You can also tune in on iRacing's social media platforms. But with that, it's time to say goodbye and get in line for the Daytona International Speedway Ferris wheel. For our partners at eNASCAR, for Drew Adamson, Sean Ambrose, Tower Hudson, Cisco Scaramuza, Travis Sullenberger, as well as Corey Vervinkt at iRacing. For Ryan Bauer, James Pike, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore at Podium Esports. For our camera builder, Dougie Beer. And for our crew for this afternoon's broadcast, our producer, Zach Johnson, my colleague in the booth, the great Devin Henry. I'm Justin Prince. Thank you so much for watching today's action. We'll see you next time for the finale at Phoenix Raceway. Congratulations to a long day, a 3-time winner, the Trot.